Right now, you might want to grab a jacket and a giant umbrella before heading outdoors this morning. Chris is tracking cooler temperatures and lots of rain for your Sunday. And from jumping around to just heading north after a big Badgers win against the Wolverines, now it's the Packers' turn. What Aaron Rodgers has to say heading into the game.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning. It's 6:30 in the morning on September 22nd. I'm Keely Arthur in with meteorologist Chris Reese. And Chris, it's almost fall.
It's almost fall. Tomorrow is the day.
So we're starting celebrating a day early.
Yes.
We got the fall leaves in the background.
I know.
Pumpkin spice. And you've never, apple cider.
Apple cider.
So really quick, you've never tried pumpkin spice?
No, never had it before,
latte.
ever.
Okay,
oh boy.
so this is a big
There's
television
a reason I've
moment.
never had it. We'll see. Oh gosh, that's a lot. Okay, I have to try it.
Cheers.
Cheers. Happy fall. Oh. I don't know. I thought it would be a lot worse. Okay.
Good.
Not bad. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
good.
actually pretty tasty.
All right, well, since we got that out of the way, moving into less important things, the weather.
Yeah, less important. Sure. We'll need your apple cider, maybe your lattes today. It's kind of one of those cool, damp mornings as you head out the doors. Here's the deal. Lots of rain out there, folks, and we're going to see that around. It really just moved in as we went through probably about the past couple of hours, but we have a log of rain to go through as we go throughout the day. Here's the past 3 hours showing you how that rain really kind of streamed on into town. I'm sorry, the past 6 hours rather, showing you that rain streaming on into town, but this is not the only batch. If I zoom this out, 500 miles across the upper Midwest, there's actually more rain to go. Look at parts of Nebraska moving into western Iowa. That's where you see even more rain starting to move into the picture. All of that is going to be moving towards the state of Wisconsin and the city of Madison as we go throughout the day. So it's still raining out there right now. Very heavy rain, winds out of the south and west at 7, dew points into the 70s. There's a lot of moisture for this rainfall to tap into. And these temperatures where we're starting out are likely the warmer temperatures we're going to see all day. They'll be steady for a while with the cloud cover, but eventually they will begin to drop. So as you plan your day, we'll see those showers around, temperatures dropping somewhat, and then holding steady into the 60s. So yeah, that's the weather today.
It's definitely not like that gorgeous, crisp kind of fall weather.
No, it is not. But you know what? I'm fairly certain tomorrow
will be.
So the actual
tomorrow
first day
is
of fall.
actually the first day, so we'll be set.
Yeah, but we're going to celebrate early and have a good time.
All right, thank you, Chris.
My pleasure.
Well, we begin in Iowa, where 17 Democratic presidential candidates are waking up this morning after a long night at the annual Polk County Steak Fry in Des Moines. In a still crowded field, some like Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren took aim at President Trump over the controversy in a whistleblower case over his reported phone conversation with the Ukraine president. In an interview, Ukraine's foreign minister denied suggestions President Trump put pressure on that country's leader. Former Vice President Joe Biden addressed reports President Trump pressed Ukraine's president to investigate his son, Hunter Biden, overnight.
Trump deserves to be investigated. Why is he on the phone with a foreign leader, trying to intimidate a foreign leader, if that's what happened?
Hunter Biden worked for a Ukraine gas company during the Obama administration. President Trump responded via tweet overnight that the media wants to stay as far away as possible from this story, or they won't get a large sum of money. So they fabricated it. He added, quote, "Nothing was said that was wrong in any way." The Biden campaign has since issued a statement calling President Trump's side of the story, quote, "a conspiracy theory." The end may be near for Cory Booker's 2020 presidential campaign. Booker's team says the Democratic candidate and New Jersey senator is in need of a fundraising surge to stay in the race for White House. Booker's campaign manager says they need to net nearly $2 million in the next 9 days.
It is we decided when we looked at budget numbers over this week that we cannot continue a winning campaign into the fourth quarter where you need to hire up, where you need to do ads. There's so many things that you have to do to win.
The push for funding comes as the DNC is set to raise the amount of fundraising dollars needed to participate in the November debates. New information this morning. The man who drove an SUV into Woodfield Mall in suburban Schaumburg Friday afternoon has been taken to a mental health hospital. That's according to the Schaumburg Police Department. Chaos erupted when the unidentified 22-year-old man drove his car inside one of the busiest malls in the Chicago area. Officials say there was no indication the attack was pre-planned and did not appear to be related to terrorism. 3 people were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries as a result. A reminder to make sure you're following the rules of the road a little closely tomorrow, especially along I-39-90. The Wisconsin aerial enforcement along that area on Monday. In a release, officials said they'll be watching for speeding, tailgating, and other dangerous driving behaviors. Officials say they publicly announce enforcements like these because they want people to voluntarily follow traffic laws. Today is the official last full day of summer, but when it comes to fall allergies, a lot of people are already feeling the effects. Allergists say this year may be even worse because of the humid summer across the Midwest. They say heat and humidity make for a lot of ragweed to grow, and mold also can pose a problem. Things you can easily do with allergies to prevent them is washing your clothes, hair after being outside, and not sleeping with a window open. Doctors say switching allergy medicines shouldn't make a difference, although some people do see relief. New this morning, 25 years ago tonight, one of the most popular sitcoms of all time aired for the very first time. And 2.5 decades later, people across the country are celebrating Friends. AT&T's San Francisco flagship store has transformed into a special fan experience to mark the anniversary. You can take plenty of pictures sitting on the iconic orange couch or by Monica's purple apartment door. The viewing lounge plays classic episodes too.
It's fascinating. The show has been off the air for quite some time, yet it's not just people that saw it during its original broadcast run. People watch it all the time, and it just cuts across everybody from grandparents to grandkids, across the generations.
The Friends experience runs through the end of the year. The series, by the way, will also be leaving Netflix at the end of the year. It will be available on HBO Max. With 7 games and counting in the regular season for the Brewers, the crew did what they had to do Saturday to snag a wild card spot. And after last night's big win, they need just 5 more to make it official. Let's remind you of the highlights. We pick it up in the 6th. Ryan Braun goes to left. Yasmani Grandal and Trent Grisham come home, and Braun gets to 3rd. It's 8-1 Brewers. Then in the 7th, Grisham hits a solid shot out of the park. A 2-run homer to make it 10-1 Brewers. The Brewers are now 3 games behind the Cardinals in the NL Central. Cubs lost to the Cardinals again Saturday. They've actually lost 5 in a row. Well, it's been an all-around great weekend for Wisconsin sports fans, with the Badgers winning big at home too. Paul Chryst and Jim Harbaugh have both been head coaches for 5 seasons, but Harbaugh's never won a game inside Camp Randall. The Badgers kept that streak alive. 35-14 the final score. The Badgers defense gave up a touchdown for the first time since they faced Minnesota last season. But Wisconsin has outscored its opponents 145-14 so far this year. With more from Camp Randall, here is Jay Wilson.
After 2 blowout wins, everybody was wondering what the Badgers would do against what was perceived to be a good team, 11th-ranked Michigan. Well, the first half looked a lot like the first 2 games as Wisconsin rolled to a 28-0 lead.
You know, we can try to make a statement that we're going to dominate the line of scrimmage up front, and you prepare for that. You know, coming in here, you know, the University of Wisconsin, you're going to run the ball. So you come in with that mindset, you know, when my number is called, I got to make sure I make it happen. I
mean, we always have a choice, and we were determined today. I think we had really great confidence on what we wanted to do, and we did it. So I think you always have the right to choose what you want to do, and we have a really good mindset of what we want to do each week.
Michigan was able to move the ball some in the second half, but by that time the story was done. Still, Wisconsin's defense gave up only 40 yards rushing to Michigan in 19 attempts, and the Wolverines did not convert on 10 third downs.
We prepared all week for that moment, you know. We prepared all season right after the last year, you know, and I'm proud of each and every one of the guys that competed today.
You know, our job as coaches is to give our guys a scheme and something that gives them a chance, right? And they got to make it come to life. And in each game, heck, each play, you're always tested on it. There's things that we did well we got to build on and can build on, and things that we can clean up.
The Badgers prove once again there's no place like home. They're 31-5 at Camp Randall Stadium since 2014, and Michigan still hasn't won here since 2001. At Camp Randall Stadium, Jay Wilson, News 3 Now Sports.
Go Badgers. Well, today it's the Packers' turn. The Packers are heading into a busy stretch, playing 3 games in 11 days. The middle game of that sandwich is today when they face the Denver Broncos at Lambeau Field at noon. The Broncos lost their first 2 games of the season by a total of just 10 points, but Aaron Rodgers doesn't take any games for granted.
The preparation has to stay sharp, regardless of who you're playing and who's coming up down the line. I don't think there's anybody in the locker room who's, looking like, oh man, I can't wait till next Thursday, to play the Philadelphia Eagles.
Time here, 6:40. It's pumpkin farm and corn maze season, and next we're heading up to central Wisconsin to check out Culver's only corn maze in the country. But first, here is a live look outside. Chris will have your full First Alert forecast just ahead.
We are tracking the showers and the thunderstorms this morning as things roll on through. We're also watching that potential for a heavy rain threat. Good morning. It is an alert day here in the News 3 Now First Alert Weather Center. We're still tracking more and more rain along with embedded lightning and thunder, especially towards the north and east of Madison right now. This has been the first slug of moisture that's moved on through. You've got a heavier shower with some lightning and thunder on the west side of Madison as well. More and more showers are developing now as we move our way back towards the south and west. We zoom out, this is the past 3 hours or 6 hours. You see this rain moving on in. check back towards the south and west. We get a gap, but then there's more rain likely getting ready to fill in. This rain goes all the way back through Kansas and parts of Texas, folks. I'm also watching this slug of moisture over Omaha. That'll likely move towards the north and east and eventually towards Wisconsin as well. Also, these same areas where you see that rain lining up are under a flash flood watch that's going to go all the way through the rest of tonight. Here's another look at that flash flood watch, and you see that coming on into town. Temperature-wise right now, we're at 72. The rain is certainly heavy. Winds are coming out of the south and west at 7 miles per hour. Dew points are also into the 70s, so there's a lot of tropical moisture for the atmosphere to tap into. That's the reason I'm more so concerned about that heavy rain threat today. It's a strong south wind, though, 70s really all throughout southeastern Wisconsin, along with some 60s as you work your way back towards the north and west. This is about how warm we'll actually get as we go through today. Later on this afternoon, we'll start to see these temperatures slide towards the downward note in a couple hours or so. So just give it some time. Here are those dew points. Again, it's incredibly humid. You see that strong south wind, and you see the moisture that is available, providing a lot of that heavy rain out there. So look for that to continue. Here we are at 10:30. Temperatures will likely still be in the low 70s with showers and thunderstorms hanging around. By 2 o'clock, the rain starts to let up a little bit, but we'll see those showers, and then eventually by about dinner time, a lot of the heaviest rain slides on off. Winds come out of the north and west at that point. So here's that drier air filtering in. Temperatures begin to drop into the 60s, but I wouldn't be surprised to see another little batch of rain move through during the late night hours. Eventually, though, sunshine does take over. We'll see those temperatures falling into the 50s and kind of staying in the 50s for a large part of the morning on Monday. But I do think we'll see plenty of sunshine on Monday. But there's a lot of rain that we have to go through today. Here's the future potential for upwards of 1.5 inches, perhaps 2 more inches of rain on top of the waterlogged ground that we already have here in south central Wisconsin. Sunshine does arrive by the time we get you towards Monday. Monday will be absolutely beautiful and fantastic. The best way to start a week, but temperatures will be staying largely above average throughout the forecast. Our average high now 69.
Wow. It really has been such a
falls
warm September.
It's been a very warm September and a very wet September as well.
All right, thank you, Chris. Well, a unique corn maze is attracting a lot of people to a farm in Portage County. It's the only one of its kind designed to show support for farmers. Brian Will from our sister station over in Wausau checked out Culver's only corn maze in the entire country and shows us just how big of a deal it really is.
Ooh, now which way?
We actually seen it on TV, and we seen an overhead picture of it, and we thought, wow, that's just something that we need to go and check out with our grandson here.
The Culver's Corn Maze at Feltz's Dairy covers almost 10 acres and was created using state-of-the-art technology.
The maze was actually planted the way it is this year, so we really didn't have to do any mowing. A lot of mazes will just plant a cornfield and then they mow it after it's planted. So this year we actually created the design in a computer program, and then it was planted with a tractor with GPS.
Which way? This way?
It's been taking people anywhere from a half hour to almost 2 hours to figure out the maze. But don't worry, they have a shortcut, so people with younger kids can do 3 acres.
Hopefully we don't get lost in there.
It's kind of been good for all ages. We've had all sorts of ages and people, and the longer option is more fun for the older kids and the adults, and then the shorter option works really well for the younger kids.
The Culver's field is more than an effort to thank farmers. They also want to encourage smart farming and support future Farmers of America chapters.
And they've raised over $2 million since they've started this program for the future of farming. So
they also have a petting zoo, pumpkins, and hay rides.
We thought we'd come and pick out a pumpkin and look and see what they had to offer here.
On October 5th, Culver's will be at the maze handing out scoops of frozen custard. Well, it's 6:49. Extreme flooding and heavy rain are 2 of the many effects of climate change, and they're becoming more and more common. Next, we're looking into a new way city planners and scientists are working together to keep your home safe and dry, not by building storm walls, but parks. Thanks for watching. News 3 Now This Morning, Sunday continues. Welcome back. The United Nations Climate Action Summit starts tomorrow. Their leaders from around the world will meet to talk about ways they can work together to help our planet. Coastal cities are doing their best to prepare for the threat of potentially large rising sea levels. Nikki Batiste toured 2 communities turning to nature for help.
On the edge of New York's East River is an urban oasis, Hunters Point South Park. There are rows of seasonal plants, waves lapping at the shore, winding paths, and breathtaking views. But look closer.
We use materials that are rugged and plant material that is salt tolerant.
Tom Balsley designed this park. He says the landscape, while beautiful, also shields the community from superstorms.
If the water rises and comes in here, this synthetic turf actually soaks it up?
Yes, it's absorbent. In a big heavy storm, we almost have 500,000 gallons of water being held here, detained, until the tide or the storm leaves, and then it goes right back to the river.
Flower beds disguise a ditch and filtration system that capture and slowly release water back into the river. An outer wall protects marshes that fill and empty with the tide, but can be fully submerged in a storm.
You said that you design these projects to bend so they don't break. What's that philosophy?
Well, that's, in a way, that's what resilience is, isn't it? It can take those storms, it can take the hit, but you know it's going to bounce back.
Just over 100 miles south, the community of Southbridge in Wilmington, Delaware, isn't only battling superstorms.
Down here, this was totally underwater.
They're battling every storm.
When it rains and the Christiana River water rises above the floodgate cannot open. So the water just backs up into the community.
Neighborhood activists Marvin Thomas and Marie Reed have lived in this waterlogged community most of their lives.
What do you remember from your childhood?
Not sleeping the night it rained. My father would say, all hands on deck, because that means everybody's going to the basement ready to take buckets and get the flooding water out of the basement.
After decades of pushing for change, they may finally see some relief. This summer, the city broke ground on the South Wilmington Wetlands Park, a project designed to stop the flooding in much of the community.
And we'll accomplish that by putting a series of new stormwater pipes in the roads throughout the Southbridge community. Those pipes will divert water into this wetland park and eventually to the channels, where it'll circulate and then move into the Christina River.
But this hard-fought victory only solves flooding for roughly 2/3 of the neighborhood.
Do you think if this were a wealthy white community that you would have had change decades ago?
Yes. See, Marvin will smile at you. Marie's going to tell you, yes, I do. It would have been rectified a long time ago.
When did you start thinking about this?
Back in the 70s.
When Superstorm wasn't really on our minds or something we were conscious of. How did you have that foresight?
I lived here.
Wilmington city planners say they hope to fix the remaining flooding in Southbridge with a future wetlands project. They're also joining cities across the country by looking at ways to protect their communities from longer-term concerns like sea level rise. Nikki Batiste, CBS News, Long Island City, New York.
Leaders from government and businesses will come together for the 2019 Climate Action Summit, which starts tomorrow in New York City. 6:56, there is a full hour of news ahead on News 3 Now this morning, Sunday. Next, we're running through the day's top stories. But first, here's a preview of what's to come on an all-new For the Record.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Neil Heinen. Today on For the Record, we will celebrate the 35th anniversary of one of Madison's great gifts to the world, Combat Blindness International. In anticipation of World Sight Day and a special anniversary celebration on October 10th, you will learn about CBI's innovative and extraordinary success at eliminating preventable blindness around the world. My guests are CBI founder and chairman Dr. Suresh Chandra and president and executive director Reena Chandra Rajpal. And that's coming up this morning at 10:30 on News 3 Now.
Right now, 1 year after a workplace shooting in Middleton, we hear from the first officers who responded and are credited with ending that attack and saving countless lives.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning. It's September 22nd. I'm Keely Arthur. We'll get a check on weather with Chris in just a second. But first, here are 3 things to know as you get your day started. 17 Democratic presidential candidates are waking up this morning after a long night at the annual Polk County Steak Fry in Des Moines. Many took aim at President Trump over the controversy in a whistleblower case over his reported phone conversation with the Ukraine president. In an interview Friday, Ukraine's foreign minister denied suggestions President Trump put pressure on that country's leader. Hunter Biden worked for a Ukraine gas company during the Obama administration. President Trump responded via Twitter overnight that the media wants to stay as far away as possible from this story or they won't get a large amount of money, so they fabricated it. The Biden campaign has since issued a statement of its own, calling the president's side of the story a, quote, conspiracy theory. The man who drove an SUV into Woodfield Mall in suburban Schaumburg Friday afternoon has been taken to a mental health hospital. That's according to the Schaumburg Police Department. Chaos erupted when the unidentified 22-year-old man drove his car into one of the busiest malls in the Chicago area. Officials say there was no indication that attack was pre-planned and it did not appear to be related to terrorism. 3 people were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. And a reminder to make sure you're following the rules of the road extra closely tomorrow, especially if you're driving along I-3990. The Wisconsin State Patrol is planning aerial enforcement along that Dane County highway on Monday. In a release, officials said they'll be watching for speeding, tailgating, and other dangerous driving behaviors. Officials say they publicly announce enforcements like these because they want people to voluntarily follow traffic laws. And switching over to meteorologist Chris Reese. And Chris, some slippery conditions for drivers out there today.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. We've had a lot of heavy rain move through during the overnight hours. We're tracking that right now. Now, a lot of the heaviest has moved off towards the north and east. You work your way up towards Dodge County, Watertown, and then up towards Fond du Lac. That's where we are seeing some of the heaviest rainfall right now. The town of Beaver Dam getting in on a little bit of lightning. One of the things I want to point out, though, is the axis of the heavy rain goes from about Manitowoc back through Madison, then southward towards Darlington and into Dubuque. That's where we're seeing some of the heavier showers right now. Now, it does appear that we're starting to get a little bit of letting up of the rainfall in the south and west, but there's more where that came from. We're going to see even more rain start to stream in as we go through time. That's just moving in back from parts of Iowa, even parts of Nebraska, sending more rain our direction. So please get prepared for a pretty soggy day. You're going to need the umbrella. If you're outdoors, you may want a poncho or a rain jacket. Carry those rain boots as well. Temperature-wise, we are at 72, and we're going to be staying into the low 70s probably for quite some time, with the cloud cover keeping those temperatures a little bit steady. Eventually, we'll start to see those temperatures gradually slide into the 60s. That's just going to take a little bit of time. But as you plan your day, keep the rain around. Temperatures gradually dropping. By the afternoon, will likely be around 68 degrees. Keely.
All right, Chris, thank you so much. Well, this week marks 1 year since the Middleton shooting at the Paradigm. 4 people were injured at WTS Paradigm. Employees began after an employee began shooting inside the software company's Middleton office. Now, to address gun violence this week, Democratic lawmakers introduced gun reform legislation that would allow for extreme risk protection orders. That means if a family member or law enforcement officer believes someone may be a threat to themselves or others, a judge can decide to temporarily seize that person's gun. The bill would have to clear a Republican-controlled legislature to pass. In the 12 months since the workplace shooting, the officers and deputies who responded that day have received national recognition for preventing an even greater tragedy. But as they told our Susan Simon, like the Paradigm employees, many are still dealing with the emotional impact.
There is an active shooter situation called in this morning.
On the phone with a caller that is hiding under his desk.
There are several hundred people evacuated.
Police snipers on the roof of one of the buildings.
Several gunshots going off.
It was a bang, 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 bang.
Scared, nervous.
Subject is down.
It was 10:25 on a Wednesday morning, the start of a regular workday for employees at WTS Paradigm.
The suspect was neutralized. I know you have a million questions, and so do I, and I don't know those answers.
I could have died today, and there are other people that may have died today.
Dane County Sheriff Dave Mahoney was at a breakfast talking about active shooter preparedness when law enforcement from multiple agencies were called to the Middleton business for reports of victims with gunshot wounds.
The tones went off, and I turned to fellow administrators and said, is there a test? Is there a practical exercise going on somewhere that we weren't aware of? And it was only a minute before we realized that, in fact, this was Dane County's first active shooter incident.
Middleton Police Chief Chuck Folk, Captain Troy Hellenbrand, and Sergeants Tyler Lather and Darren Zimmerman were the first officers to arrive on the scene.
But my first reaction was, is this real? Is this really happening? I think in the back of my mind I was hoping it was something like fireworks or some sort of erroneous report.
And what is that like when you realize this is real?
For me, it was actually just like we trained. There were so many things that I did that day that we had repped so many times that it just came naturally.
Both sides move up together.
Police body camera video shows the three officers quickly advancing through the building minutes after the shooting.
He's right behind this plant here. He's laying down right behind this blue couch.
When we went in there, it was eerily quiet. Didn't see anybody hiding or anything like that. We were just moving through trying to find where he was. And as we were moving through the building, we came into a big open atrium area. Right when we came into that big area, he came out from another room probably about 11 feet from us.
Please, let me see your hands.
He fit the description, and obviously he had a gun, and it was immediate. We put our weapons on him, and the threat was there, and we started giving him commands. So
You did speak to him?
Oh yeah.
Did he respond?
No, he was mumbling something. I couldn't understand.
Drop that gun! Drop the gun!
The shooter, Anthony Tong, shot and injured 4 co-workers before being killed in a shootout with police. One of the victims was shot multiple times. Another was given a tourniquet by a deputy, which was then put on by a fellow employee.
We know who the real heroes were that day, and it was the people at Paradigm. And they all survived, and they survived because they did what it took. They either hid under a desk, they either barricaded themselves in an office or a storeroom or whatever, or they ran, and they even carried their wounded colleagues with them.
The shooter was barred from legally buying or owning a gun because of a mental health issue, but he was able to buy parts online.
I wrote a letter to our community a year ago and said that we cannot allow this to be the new normal, and how profoundly mistaken I was, because it is the new normal and it's really unacceptable.
This is not a Second Amendment issue. It is not. It's about a community safety issue.
You're trained for a moment like this, but you're taking a human life. How has it affected you?
I never thought that I'd truly really be in that situation, so I think it's important to acknowledge it and be proactive. With things such as counseling, seeing a psychologist, utilizing our EAP services.
I didn't fire my weapon, but I was behind these guys as they were communicating with the suspect. So for me, I was really concerned about them. And I think that's probably been as an administrator in our organization, that's probably affected me the most, is just how it's affected our officers and our staff.
And as we move forward now, we want the community to know that we are there to provide the training, the resources to be prepared.
It's not instinctual to run to the sound of gunfire or run against the wave of people that are leaving, and these men and women did it, and Sheriff and I could not be more proud of them.
Paradigm has rebranded in the past year, dropping WTS from its name and moving into a newly remodeled space on Deming Way. All 4 of the injured employees have returned to work there. More local news now. Brewers fans are hoping the team will keep their wild card hopes alive. With 7 games and counting in the regular season for the Brewers, the crew did what they had to do overnight to snag a wild card spot. And now they need just 5 more wins to make that official. Let's remind you of the highlights. We pick it up in the 6th. Ryan Braun goes to left. Yasmani Grandal and Trent Grisham come home, and Braun gets to third. It's 8-1 Brewers. Then in the 7th, Grisham hits a solid shot out of the park, a 2-run homer to make it 10-1 Brewers. The Brewers are now 3 games behind the Cardinals in the NL Central. Cubs lost to the Cardinals again Saturday. They've actually lost 5 in a row. 7:10, and next, a warning for anyone looking to do a little online shopping this weekend. But first, here is a live look outside. Chris has your full first alert forecast just ahead. Plus, planning your travel plans for the holiday season could save you some money, but you'll have to make those plans this week. News 3 Now This Morning Sunday. We'll be right back.
We are still tracking the showers and thunderstorms throughout the area this morning. A lot of the heaviest rain towards the north and east at the moment, right through Madison. From about extreme southern Dane County through northern Dane County, we have a heavier shower that's moving on through. Then we look back towards the south and west, and we actually have more showers that are beginning to develop. it looks like the rain is not as intense in coverage, but more and more of that rain just kind of pops up in time. Here's the past 6 hours. You see that rain moving in from the southwest and towards the north and east, but we're going to see more and more of that rain developing and moving in from the southwest and then towards the north and east. This other batch of showers throughout Omaha, that'll likely be moving towards the Madison area as we go later through today as well. Also, this same area is under a flash flood watch. Really, all this stretch, all the way back to the panhandle of Texas, dealing with the potential for some flash flooding. Of course, that does include us right here in the immediate Madison area. So Madison under that flash flood watch that goes up towards Beaver Dam, just towards the south of Sheboygan, and then all the way back towards Platteville, Boscobel, and Prairie du Chien. So be mindful of the high water potential as we head on through the day. Plenty of clouds out there, the rain coming down as well. Our temperature has finally been able to fall a degree, now down to 71. Those winds are still out of the south and southwest at about 6 miles per hour. 72 still for our friends in Janesville, Monroe at 71, Platteville and Boscobel both at 68, Viroqua at 64. Look for these temperatures to stay fairly steady going through the morning. We'll keep that rain around. This is 10:30. By 2 o'clock, we'll still see some showers. I think they'll start to lighten up just a little bit. Here comes those winds out of the north and west. This is going to allow for some drier air to move in so that by 5:30, 6 o'clock, I think we'll be cooler, but I don't think we'll see as expansive of a coverage of rainfall, but we still might see some showers moving in towards, say, 10 or 11 o'clock. Overnight, the skies will clear out. That's when we'll truly begin to see some sunshine, especially as we head into your Monday. But it's a lot of rain that we could be dealing with between now and then, perhaps more than 1.5 inches, upwards of 2 inches of rainfall in some spots. So again, this is why I just want to preach to be mindful of the heavy rain threat and the local high water threat. If you can counter a flooded road, please turn around. Do not drown, but we'll dry out. Just give it some time, folks. That dry day comes just in time for the first day of fall on Monday. Today is an alert day due to that flash flood threat. We could see some showers Tuesday night into Wednesday, and then again Friday night into Saturday. Thursday, if you're looking for a day that's truly going to feel like fall, Thursday is the one day that actually is what this time of the year should be like.
The one day in the entire forecast.
The whole 10 days.
And just to mention, we do have some cancellations for events going on because of the rain. The ride at the UW hosted ride is canceled, and also just coming in, First Fox Cities Marathon also canceled because of it. So, and good advice with don't drive.
Most flood deaths occur because people are in cars driving through it.
And they think they
can
can go, and
they can't.
You can't. All right. Well, thank you, Chris. We've been asking you to share your morning with us, and oh my gosh, I wish this morning looked like this. Look at this gorgeous photo from Greg Larson. What does your morning look like? Take a picture and post it on the Channel 3000 Facebook page or on Twitter using the hashtag MyNews3Morning. We'll share our favorites right here on our air. Holiday getaways can be pricey, but the chance to get the best deals isn't too far away. AAA says the best time to book flights for busy weekends around Thanksgiving and Christmas is actually this Wednesday, September 25th. Booking data from the last 3 years says the 25th marks the start of the best booking window for air travel around those times. When you look to get the best value, AAA says to make sure you book by October 27 and do some research on your options. A warning for anyone online shopping this weekend. Consumer Reports says a lot of ratings on Amazon could be misleading. Amazon shoppers often decide to buy a product because it has a high number of stars. I know I do. Well, those stars are based on positive customer reviews and can earn a coveted Amazon Choice banner, but Consumer Reports says not all those reviews are legitimate. We're talking about something called review hijacking. Check this out. A headphone jack adapter had 4 stars based on nearly 2,000 reviews, but most of the positive reviews were for a phone case or other products. The actual adapter received scathing comments warning other customers to not buy it.
Unscrupulous sellers have figured out ways to exploit loopholes in the back end of Amazon.
Amazon about the headphone jack adapter's reviews, and 2,000 reviews dropped to just 106. The unrelated comments were gone along with the Amazon Choice rating. Now, Amazon told CBS News if someone reports an issue, they will investigate it and take the appropriate actions. 7:19 a.m. and a few weeks into football season, we're talking about the concussion conversation, and we're talking about with parents and coaches who are concerned that helmets aren't doing enough to protect players. Well, next, an engineering professor from UW-Madison weighs in on how sturdy new helmets really are and what else can be done to protect athletes of all ages this season. You're watching News 3 Now This Morning, Sunday. Welcome back. A couple of weeks into football season, concussions remain a concern for parents, coaches, and players themselves. This year, teams at all levels, from young kids to the pros, are debuting new helmets designed to better protect athletes from brain injuries. But are they doing enough? Professor Christian Frank from UW's Granger Institute for Engineering specializes in this topic, and he joins us this morning. Good morning, Christian. So obviously, we're in football season. There's a lot of talk about not even having your child in football. What are some things parents should know?
I think the good news is that we as scientists work on this issue around the clock. And I think within the next few years, we'll really be able to understand exactly what gives rise to this injury. And more excitingly, I think also for parents, is to really come up with a way to protect their kids as well as professional athletes against it. So we're getting close.
We always were taught growing up, if you wear a helmet, you're safe, but that's not really the case.
Correct. So, I mean, first of all, I want to say everybody should always wear a helmet because helmets keep us safe and they do help. But they don't do quite enough to really protect the brain from becoming injured. So this is something that we work on at the university, trying to come up with better ways, safeguards and helmets to really protect the inside of the head.
What are some of those things that are being done? To advance the helmet.
Right. So we've gotten good with the help of technology to create models in the laboratory that allow us to gain insight on how the physical trauma gets put in motion first, and we use that information then to think about next generation helmets, safer ways to play the game, and safer ways to engage.
Do you think that there is a safe way to play football? There is gear that can make this sport, continue and be safe?
I do think so. I certainly think that it could be, in the end, it could be a combination of safer gear as well as more awareness on how we play the game and how players tackle and interact.
And if you don't have the proper gear and you do get a concussion, what are some of the long-term results of that?
It's very variable, and it depends on the individual. Part of the problem for us, the brain is very complex. And so predicting that is challenging. And so what we're trying to do at the university and the community as a whole is really to protect upfront.
When a parent is looking at a helmet or just making sure their kiddo's helmet is safe, what should they be checking?
Right now, most of the helmets that are on the market are certified against the helmet standard that's been in place for about 40 years. And that's still a good thing to be there, but we're hoping that within the next few years, we'll add a new standard that was really truly aimed at protecting the brain.
All right. An important and very timely topic. Thank you so much, Christian. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, there's a half hour of news still ahead here on News 3 This Morning Sunday. Next, we are running through the morning's top stories, and they've been there for us for 25 years and counting, how people around the world are celebrating our favorite Friends and one of the most popular sitcoms of all time. We'll be right back.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now This Morning.
Good morning to you. It is September 22nd. I'm Keely Arthur. We're celebrating one day before fall. We'll get a check on weather with Chris in just a second. But first, here are 3 things to know as you start your day. With 7 games and counting in the regular season for the Brewers, the crew did what they had to do Saturday to snag a wild card spot. And after last night's big win, they need just 5 more to make that official. Let's remind you of the highlights. We pick it up in the 6th. Ryan Braun goes to left. Yasmani Grandal and Trent Grisham come home, and Braun gets to 3rd. It's 8-1 Brewers. Then in the 7th, Grisham hits a solid shot out of the park, a 2-run homer to make it 10-1 Brewers. Today is the Packers' turn to bring home a victory. The Packers are heading into a busy stretch, playing 3 games in 11 days. The middle game of that sandwich is today when they face the Denver Broncos at Lambeau Field at noon. The Broncos lost their first 2 games of the season by a total of just 10 points. And believe it or not, 25 years ago tonight, one of the most popular sitcoms of all time aired for the very first time. And 2.5 decades later, people across the country are celebrating Friends. AT&T's San Francisco flagship store has transformed into a special fan experience to mark the anniversary. You can take plenty of pictures sitting on the iconic orange couch or by Monica's purple apartment door. The Friends experience runs through the end of the year. The series, by the way, will also be leaving Netflix at the end of the year. It will become available on HBO Max. And Chris has a lot to monitor this morning. What is going on?
That's right, Keely. We're going to take a moment to pivot into weather right now as we continue to track plenty of rainfall out there. This is a live look from the Edgewater sky cam. You see some of the fog. You see some of the heavy rain coming down. It's actually hard to actually see the Capitol in that. 71 degrees and heavy rain being reported at the airport. Winds coming out of the south and southwest at 6 miles per hour right now. Dew points are also into the low 70s. That does mean it's incredibly humid. There's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, and that's what we've been tracking throughout the past 6 hours. Plenty of lightning, plenty of thunder has been embedded with some of this rainfall that's been moving on in. A little batch of heavy rain over Madison right now. More of that is developing as you work your way back towards the south and west. So we're going to keep that around pretty much all day. Here we are at 11 o'clock. We'll still see more steady, very heavy rain coming through the area. Temperatures will be in the low 70s and upper 60s. By about 4 o'clock, we'll start to see some of that drier air working into town. That's when it becomes a little bit more spotty showers instead of the widespread rain. And then once we get after that, we'll actually get a break before perhaps another little round of some lighter rain that moves in later on tonight, say 9, 10, 11 o'clock. Winds will be out of the north and west at that point, so the air will start to get drier. This little batch of rain will likely not be as heavy as the rain that we're dealing with out there this morning. Eventually, though, we'll start to see some clearing skies overnight and then some sunshine by the time we get you towards your Monday. But as you plan this afternoon, do know that things are certainly going to be wet. We'll have the potential to see a lot of rain, perhaps 1.5 upwards to 2 inches of rainfall in some spots, and this is already on top of a waterlogged environment. So please be mindful of the high water threat.
All right, Chris, and 2 reminders. Because of all that rain, 2 events canceled in our area, Ride Wisconsin and Fox Cities Marathon. Over to Iowa, where 17 Democratic presidential candidates are waking up this morning after a long night at the annual Polk County Steak Fry in Des Moines. In a still crowded field, some took aim at President Trump over the controversy in a whistleblower case over his reported phone conversation with the Ukrainian president. In an interview Friday, Ukraine's foreign minister denied suggestions President Trump put pressure on that country's leader. Former Vice President Joe Biden addressed reports President Trump pressed Ukraine's president to investigate his son, Hunter Biden, overnight.
Trump deserves to be investigated. Why is he on the phone with a foreign leader, trying to intimidate a foreign leader, if that's what happened?
Hunter Biden worked for a Ukrainian gas company during the Obama administration. President Trump responded via Twitter overnight, saying that the media wants to stay as far away as possible from the story or they won't get a large amount of money. So they fabricated the story. He added, quote, "Nothing was said that was wrong in any way." The Biden campaign has since issued a statement calling the president's side of the story a, quote, "conspiracy theory." The end may be near for Cory Booker's 2020 presidential campaign. Booker's team says the Democratic candidate and New Jersey senator is in need of a fundraising surge to stay in the race for White House. Booker's campaign manager says they need to net nearly $2 million in just the next 9 days.
It is we decided when we looked at budget numbers over this week that we cannot continue a winning campaign into the fourth quarter where you need to hire up, where you need to do ads. There's so many things that you have to do to win.
The push for funding comes as the DNC is set to raise the amount of fundraising dollars needed to participate in the November debates. New information this morning, the man who drove an SUV into Woodfield Mall in suburban Schaumburg Friday afternoon has been taken to a mental health hospital. That's according to the Schaumburg Police Department. Chaos erupted when the unidentified 22-year-old man drove his car inside one of the mall's busiest in the Chicago area. Officials say there was no indication the attack was pre-planned and did not appear to be related to terrorism. 3 people were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. More local news, a reminder to make sure you're following the rules of the road a little closer tomorrow, especially along I-3990. The planning aerial enforcement along that Dane County area on Monday. In a release, officials said they'll be watching for speeding, tailgating, and other dangerous driving behaviors. Officials say they publicly announce enforcements like these because they want people to voluntarily follow traffic laws. Today is the official last full day of summer, but when it comes to fall allergies, a lot of people are already feeling them. Allergists say this year may be even worse because of the humid summer across the Midwest. They say heat and humidity make for a lot of ragweed to grow, and mold can also pose a big problem. Things you can do to easily prevent allergies: wash your clothes and hair after being outside and not sleeping with the window open. Doctors say switching allergy medicines really shouldn't make a difference, although some people do see relief with that. 7:36, and one of the most well-known national monuments is back open for the first time in nearly 10 years. Next, we're getting an exclusive first look inside. We'll take you to the top of the Washington Monument. That's all ahead on News 3 Now this morning, Sunday. Welcome back. The Washington Monument is reopened for the first time this weekend in almost 10 years. And you might not be able to tell from the outside, but it's gone quite a facelift. CBS News cameras were allowed up for the first time. Here's Jan Crawford making history at the top of the monument.
It's a symbol of America, instantly recognizable. 10,000 tons of pure marble anchored into bedrock right below the swamp. The Washington Monument, once the tallest structure in the world, with those sweeping views of centers of power like the Capitol and Pentagon.
It's an icon of this country.
An
and
icon.
It is,
I mean, an icon.
it is, and central to so many people's visits to D.C.
But the city's centerpiece set shuttered, closed to tourists for most of the past decade. 2011, a rare East Coast earthquake rattled the region, raining rocks on dozens of visitors who survived more than 2 terrifying minutes at the observation deck 500 feet up. Everyone got out alive, but the more than century-old monument didn't escape unscathed.
The earthquake damage was extensive.
It was a monumental task to fix the massive marble obelisk with 36,000 separate stones, some cracked so badly the sun shone right in. To begin, engineers had to build this exoskeleton of scaffolding. 3 years later, the monument was back open, and we were there.
And so that is
typical as you see the forces that were on the stone.
But it didn't last. In 2016, a cable snapped in the monument's aging elevator, and for 3 more years, no tourists could reach the top. Now, with some updates to the elevator and this new security screening facility at the base, Washington's best view is again ready for visitors.
And so when those doors open on Thursday, you don't expect them to close again for a few years anytime soon.
They will stay open, and we look forward to probably 500,000 people or so a year.
But reopening the monument took one thing the Park Service didn't have: money. So billionaire philanthropist David Rubenstein stepped in. He poured more than $10 million into shoring up the soaring stone structure.
I came from very modest circumstances, and I got very lucky in this country, so I don't really regard it as a great gift by myself, but it really is a thank you to America.
Now, the public will be able to come up here starting tomorrow, but you will need tickets. The National Park Service is going to let up just over 100 people an hour. But once you're up here, you're free to stay the rest of the day. Jan Crawford, CBS News, from the top of the Washington Monument.
Very cool. Well, it is 7:42 and you are taking a live look over the Capitol. Chris is back with your full forecast next on News 3 Now this morning. But first, let's take a look at who is turning 3. Happy birthday, Cece.
And we have been tracking the showers and the thunderstorms all morning long, folks. We continue to track some of that action right now, especially moving through Madison towards the north and east. Folks, in Beaver Dam, you've got a heavy shower that is moving your direction as we speak. And there's going to be more of this as we go through today, moving all from the south and west and then towards the north and east. We've seen plenty of lightning embedded with these showers and thunderstorms as well. And then here's that new batch starting to form towards our south and west. What I've noticed happening is you get a batch that forms here. It then moves towards the north and east, and just as that happens and you think things are clearing out towards the south and west, another batch of storms begins to develop. We call that back building. That is something that does lead to the flash flood threat, which of course we do have a flash flood watch in effect. More and more showers are coming at us from the south and west as well. Parts of Iowa and Nebraska all sending rain our direction. It extends all the way back into parts of Kansas, really even Oklahoma and the panhandle of Texas. So there are flash flood watches from there all the way towards Lake Michigan and the Milwaukee metro. Of course, it does include us right here in the city of Madison and really all of extreme southern Wisconsin under a flash flood watch. And this is all until 1 o'clock in the morning. So expect that flash flood threat to be something we're going to have to watch going through the entire day. It's cloudy, it's rainy, and it's foggy, so visibility will be an issue with the rain out there. The temperature 71 as the rain continues to come down. Those winds are out of the south and southwest at 6 miles per hour. That southerly wind sticks with us for the first half of the day. We'll start to see a northwesterly wind coming back into the picture later on this afternoon. That's going to be the drier air that we need to begin to dry us out. But in the meantime, 70s and upper 60s is certainly the theme right now. That continues. Here we are at 10:30. Temperatures will still be in the 70s and upper 60s with the heavy, steady rain sticking around. By 2 o'clock, we start to get in on that northerly wind, bringing in that drier air, and that's when the showers become a little bit more showery in nature instead of so widespread. By dinner time, a lot of this starts to move on out. That northerly wind kind of kicks up a little bit, but we may still see at least another batch of some lighter rain that moves in during the overnight hours. Check the temperatures, all now falling into the 50s. We'll fall into the low 50s overnight tonight. Gradually warm through the 50s through tomorrow morning, and get this, we're now seeing some sunshine into the picture as well. But before we get there, folks, we could see anywhere from 1.5 inches upwards towards 2 inches of rainfall in some spots. So this is certainly something that we'll have to watch for. And I want to stress, if you encounter a flooded roadway, turn around, don't drown. Most flooding deaths do occur in your cars. So that's something to truthfully take seriously. Sunshine for the first day of fall on Monday. We'll see sunshine most of Tuesday as well. Overnight, Tuesday into Wednesday, we could see a little chance for some showers. Thursday, I am so looking forward to. That's a true fall day right there. And then perhaps temperatures close to summertime averages again by the time we get towards this time next week.
And you were saying we don't really want that because the leaves won't be as vibrant.
Yeah, so if you want fall colors, you need cooler nights and some cooler days. Not cold days, no. You want highs in the 60s and overnight lows into the 40s, but you do not want what we have right now. Otherwise, you will get the oranges and yellows. You know, that happens regardless, but you won't get a lot of the other colors.
All right, well, here's to the Thursday forecast.
Here's to the Thursday, yes.
Thank you, Chris. Well, a reminder, today's storms have canceled the Ride Wisconsin and Community First Fox Cities Marathon and many more. We're monitoring all of the closures on our website, channel3000.com, and also have them posted over on our mobile app. Well, there is more news ahead all day long here on News 3 Now. And then tomorrow morning, we're learning about a new city task force that's working to get people involved in the decision-making process here in city civics. But first, today is your last chance to catch the hilarious show, The Book of Mormon, over at the Overture Center. Our Michael Bruno goes backstage and will take you along just ahead. Welcome back. Today is your last chance to catch the Book of Mormon over at the Overture Center. This is a musical about the misadventures of a mismatched pair of Mormon missionaries, third run in Madison.
And so we've sent our own Michael Bruno, who went backstage to learn more about what has made this show an international sensation.
2 by 2, we're marching door to door.
So, for those of people that have never ever even heard of Book of Mormon, which I find hard to believe, just give us a little overview of what the show is kind of about.
Well, the Book of Mormon, if you have not seen it, if you've been living on Venus, you must come right away. The Book of Mormon is a hilarious take on two Mormon boys who are just about to start their mission. Together, they're going to go off for 2 years and preach the gospel to the world, and they are chosen to go to Uganda. So we take two boys from the squeakiest clean place on the planet and drop them into the most challenging place on the planet. And the Book of Mormon is a story about how even in the most difficult of times, faith inevitably finds its own way to serve people.
And tell me a little bit about the characters that you get to play in this wonderful musical.
Well, as they journey on their way, you know, of course, because they meet other Mormon mission boys, so the cast skews very young. So I basically play all of the white adults in the show. I played Jesus Christ. I played Joseph Smith, who is the founder of the Mormon religion. I play Elder Price's dad, who is one of the lead boys. I play the president of the Mormon Church. I play pretty much anybody who's white and anybody who's not a boy.
And now this is not your first time here in Madison.
My third time here, and I mean, I've been to Madison several times because my daughter actually just graduated last spring from the University of Wisconsin's medical school here, and she's now in Oakland, California, doing her residency for OBGYN. But yes, I've played, I believe, every time the show has played here at the Ovation Center, where we are right now. I have played Jesus Christ and Joseph Smith.
Is that daunting for you to think, I played Jesus Christ, and it's not Jesus Christ Superstar?
My MO used to be that I used to die in every show that I did. That was, you know, I did Les Mis, and I played Angeras, and I died on the barricade in that. I was Joseph Smith, Joe Gillis in Sunset Boulevard, and I was shot and killed and fell into the orchestra pit at the end of that show. I would just die and everything. Now, apparently, I played deities. Just before this, I was playing God in Children of Eden, the Stephen Schwartz show. So I guess that's my new thing now, is to play prophets and deities.
And how long have you been with the touring company?
I'm in my 6th year now, yeah. There used to be 2 tours of the show, and I was with the first national tour, and this became the 2nd national tour and is now the only national tour, and I joined this one about 3 years ago.
So tell me about your journey of getting to the Book of Mormon. So where were you just before being hired, and how was your experience in getting cast in the first time?
It was a fun story for me because the first time I was asked to come in for the show, I was not able to come, so I sent a tape in for it, which is now a very common way of casting. I was playing George in Sunday in the Park with George in a regional company. Couldn't make it in, was too busy, and I did not end up getting the role, but then a year later, the role opened up. I flew in and had the audition. It was the shortest audition I've ever had. I don't think I was in the room for an entire minute. I came in, I sang Joseph Smith's death, and they laughed, and I left, and I got an offer. They should all be that easy. And it's been just a joyful ride. As easy and fun as that has been, my 6 years with the show have been every bit as fun and easy and joyful.
If you can get them to laugh at your audition, and if they're laughing with you and not at you, well, that's a very good sign.
The funny thing is, John, is I didn't even think I was that funny. But apparently they did. I thought, well, oh, this is funny, good.
You have 2 more chances to catch the Book of Mormon in person today at 1 and 6:30. For more information, you can head over to theoverture.org. Chris and I have our pumpkin spice lattes, our fall graphics, but the weather not looking very
No, the
fall-like.
weather right now, very summer-like, so we have to pretend that it's fall right now. But still, we'll see more fall-like weather for the first true day of fall tomorrow.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you for watching. Have a great day, everybody.